day.
Ramogi, good morning.
Good morning, Ndu.
How are you doing?
Wonderful, thank you.
Even more wonderful. I keep saying the wonderful thing about getting on air is that the things that happen behind the scenes, or how we greet each other.
No, I was excited to see that two of my friends are here, apart from you.
Okay, apart from me.
And I have since expressed the need to be here more often.
EVE has heard you.
Thank you.
Karibu sana and Happy New Year. I know if Dennis Asante will say, he said, no. Once Valentine's Day has passed, you can't be saying Happy New Year.
No, Dennis is trying to be white. We are Africans, and Africa is our business. Okay. We say Happy New Year until Easter. Then after Easter, now we can say Happy Easter and any other happy. Okay. But until Easter, it's Happy New Year.
Odhiambo Ramogi is an economist, and you can tell that he's here this morning. There's a 500 billion shilling SGR. It's a rail. Now we're asking the question this morning whether it's a railway to prosperity or are we looking into more debt. We're going to have that conversation. It's necessary that we do. I'm of the opinion that a railway is a good thing, because what you do is that you open up certain parts of the country and that people can move at a lower cost and that actually can get their business done. The kind of transport that you use maybe could be in question. Joe Kamanya already says, we need to have speed trains. This thing of now being in a train for 7 hours doesn't make sense when you can be there in 2.5. But, baby steps. So that's the conversation that we will be having today. We're going to get into it and look at the details of this and what exactly it means. There are people in Kenya who didn't know that there's another segment of the railway that's actually being opened up, so we'll talk about that as well. But we're going to start with today's proverb. I'd love to get your interpretation of it. This week we go to Guinea. Guinea is in West Africa, formerly colonized by the French, and I keep giving this example because I'm on this more recently than not, that we need to understand what true independence really means. Guinea had to fight for its independence twice. First time was the, flag independence, as it were. Second time was the economic independence that it had to detach from the shackles of France to then get its money back and to be one of those 8. The proverb for today from Guinea is, around a flowering tree, one finds many insects. Around a flowering tree, one finds many insects. What do you make of that?
That's an interesting one. I mean, where there's something beautiful, my interpretation of it, where there's something beautiful of value, you will find it attracts many interests, people, participation. There's a Swahili equivalent that is coming but not coming. Jungu kuu halikosi, mti mkubwa ukoko, yes, but no, mti mkubwa ndege wengi, something like that. It has gone, but you get there.
It will come.
But you get the gist,
the gist of it, right.
But you've mentioned something there that I wanted to comment on before I forget. That Guinea had to fight for their independence twice. First, the political independence, and second, the economic independence. Isn't that the story of almost every African nation? Right now, people are talking about the third liberation, because the first one was the political, the second one was the constitutional, and the third one now, the economic. And that's our story as well. Theirs is more pronounced because the French really invested in neo-colonialism.
Right.
Yeah, but it's our story, all of us.
It's true. Don't think I'm going to let you get away from interpreting the proverb. A nice try, but
Yeah. Yes. No, but I thought I had. Like where there's something good. We'll all come, gather, and try to partake of something good.
Okay. I'll let you get off of that. All right. So there's a railway. It's going to be open. It was launched by the idea was launched by the president on his recent tour to Nyanza just a couple of days ago. And so what we see is something that was promised before, but then now it's becoming a reality whereby we will have a railway. So now essentially it's going to go all the way it's going to come from Mombasa. It's, right now stops in around Naivasha. then now it's going to extend out to Kisumu. And that seems to be, that will be a reality. And for the, by and large, people agree, even Joe agrees that this is a good thing. The problem, though, is that what lies beneath.
Right.
Is there a problem already that we can imagine when we talk about 500 billion shillings? Is that adequate money? Is that too much money? Is there already budgeted corruption here? Because the question's already being asked. When we've been told a timeline about 2 years is when we're going to see that this will be completed. Should Kenyans be at the point, from an economic point of view, worried about this? Or do we say, this is great, it's infrastructure, it's development, it's opening up the country, let's go?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss the railway. It's a great development. There are three issues that I'd want to discuss around the railway. Number one is the question of necessity. Do we need it? And do we need it now? Number two is the question of governance, and especially governance around our infrastructure projects. And number three is the question of the national debt. Now, let me start with the necessity question. This is a Mwananchi way of doing cost-benefit analysis.
Yes.
When we build a road from Garissa going north all the way to Mandera, we are not building it because there's awesome cargo that's going to move from Garissa to Moyale. It's just that those people that come from that region also deserve a road. Notwithstanding the sessional paper number 10 that stipulated that development must follow value. And so number one in terms of necessity is just inclusion. We have done a railway from Mombasa to Naivasha. In other words, we have prioritized that belt for economic use. And we have said that cargo moves from Mombasa into the hinterland all the way to Naivasha. We do not see a lot of cargo going west, and so it's no longer a priority. I have seen other people saying that the real issue is a priority, is prioritizing. But the first point, all factors constant, is inclusion. The bulk majority of Kenyans that come from the western side of the country also deserve to go home on an SGR. Myself included. But the second question is more practical than that. The second part of the necessity question is the regional trade, as it were. The first time I started studying into railways and SGR was in the year 2018. After I was in Mombasa, I wanted to go into the clearing and forwarding business. And then I'm being told, are you the only visitor in Jerusalem? Because things were bad. And so I started studying into it. And at that time, the regional business, in terms of the cargo moving from Mombasa into the region, was less than 25%. The bulk of the cargo that was coming into the port of Mombasa, the export business is negligible. The huge bulk of the transport need for our country and the countries in the region is, in fact, the import business. And so at that time, the percentage of the regional business was less than 25%. Today, it has gone higher, that now the domestic business is around 55%, and the rest is either transit business or transshipment. Transit is a lorry leaves Mombasa, goes all the way to DRC. Carrying the container. Transshipment is a lorry leaves Mombasa, goes to Busia, and another lorry carries it from Busia to. But it's still the same. It's going into the region. While the domestic business for cargo is growing. The regional business for cargo is growing a lot faster.
Okay.
So then you ask yourself, why would anyone want the SGR to terminate at Naivasha when it is evident that in 10 years, in 15 years, the regional cargo might actually be at par or more than the domestic cargo? Okay. In other words, the Ugandan cargo, the Rwandan cargo, the DRC cargo, in a few years' time, will exceed the cargo that comes into our country. But beyond that also, our first trading partner is not a Western country, is Uganda. 900 million USD of business happened between Kenya and Uganda. That's roughly 100 billion Kenyan shillings. This is mostly goods, not necessarily services, goods. And so you find that these goods are going by vans, these goods are going by trailers. If we had an SGR that can facilitate that trade, won't it perhaps grow to a higher rate, perhaps to 1,500 billion or something? So the question of necessity is not just inclusion. The question of necessity is also practical in terms of the current that we are doing trade with Uganda, and we need to facilitate that trade with proper infrastructure. It is also in terms of the future that the regional trade is growing a lot faster, and if we do not invest on it, we will be surprised. And let me finish the question of necessity with the strange happenings between Tanzania and Uganda. Now, Tanzania decided that they are also going to build an SGR. At that time, we were still unsure whether to build it to Busia or not. We were still thinking and dreaming about it. And they won the logistics war, the diplomacy with Uganda. Now Uganda is interconnecting with their SGR. Now, our biggest competitor, at least here, is Tanzania, because at least they've gotten it right in terms of building a nation out of the many people groups living there, and the economy is growing a hell lot faster. Now, if then they are taking charge of the region in terms of the logistics business, what does that mean for our future as the regional power base? I submit to you that I am concerned that the railway, the people who are in power at that time did not see the need to push the railway to Busia or Malaba, as it were. And in fact, I have my own opinions as to why it had to land in Naivasha. And my thought as it is right now is it had to land in Naivasha so that Naivasha can be the pickup and the drop-off point, and the value of some land in Naivasha would go up. But that is just my opinion. The second question is the whole question of governance. Now, this guy, I saw him welcoming the president over the weekend in my hub. This guy in my region. So he's been very happy so far. Now, let me make him angry. The global rate of constructing a railway is about 1.2 million US dollars. Globally. Now, the railway from Mombasa to Naivasha was built at over 10 million US dollars per kilometer. We are much better. We are not much better. I mean, we are the worst in the region. The Ugandans have built theirs at 8 million US dollars per kilometer. The Ethiopians have done a lot better. I think it's around 3 or 4 kilometers. So we are all corrupt, except Kenya is more corrupt than everybody else.
Can I ask a question? It's in the same line as this, because you've said a couple of things that I'm now trying to connect the dots.
Yes.
That you said, okay, with the inception of an idea of railway from Mombasa to Naivasha, okay, how much did that cost? And it's quick. Do we know how much it costs?
Well,
because it's in a sequence of questions, because I want to connect for you to answer the last question. How much did it cost?
Over a trillion shillings.
A trillion shillings?
Yes,
Okay.
about 1.2.
Cost a trillion shillings. Okay.
Yes, if you calculate against the distance, which is around 533 kilometers,
Yeah.
that comes to around 1.86 to 2 billion shillings per kilometer.
Okay.
So that was fairly expensive.
All right,
What
so-
we are doing now is about 357 kilometers at 500 billion. That comes to around 1.36 billion per kilometer.
From that
So
calculation.
it's cheaper, but
Okay.
yeah.
So you said that at that time there was a case for the railway to go all the way to Malaba,
Right.
because there's movement of at least goods. We don't even have to talk about services. There's
Right.
movement of goods,
Right.
and that would be happening at that port
Right.
of Malaba, because come on. It's Kenya, Uganda, that's got this $900 million worth of trade per year, and this could essentially move it to 1.5 billion
Absolutely.
in USD.
Yeah.
So there was a case at that time to be made for building the railway. Am I also hearing you say that with this $1 trillion, Kenya could actually have built the railway from 1 trillion shillings, Kenya could have actually built the railway from Mombasa to Malaba with that money then?
Kenya could have built the railway from Mombasa to Malaba. It should have been a 2-lane railway. It should have been an electric railway with that amount.
Then, with that money,
Yes.
could have happened. So what we are saying now, with adding 500 billion shillings, which is what this one from, from Suswa to Kisumu, not even terminating in Malaba, you're going to use half the amount of what you could have used
Right.
to take the railway from Mombasa
Right.
to Malaba.
Yes.
It's a waste of money. We can see it.
No.
Is there a waste of money, or is it inflated? Let me use a better, more intellectual word.
But-
Is it inflated?
But
this money?
you've taken up my submissions because that's exactly what I was going to.
Okay.
And so then, yes, without a doubt, the cost of construction of railways in this region is inflated. It's inflated in Ethiopia, it's inflated in Tanzania, it's inflated in Uganda, it's inflated locally. So then that raises the governance issues. Must it be inflated? The necessity issue, I think question we've answered, that yes, it is necessary, but at what cost? And so at that point, I think we need to have an honest conversation about the wastage in our country and the governance and the governance issues. But then again, that brings us now to the cost-benefit analysis. As a citizen, I need the railway. But also, as a citizen, I need to tell the government, no, I am uncomfortable with the way you're managing my resources. And so I think we need to shift the conversation from, do we need it? Because I see a lot of that conversation. Shift that conversation to, we want you to build the railway, but we want you to build it at the global construction rates, which is 1.2 million per kilometer. So don't come and inflate it the way you want to. Let me finish with the debt question before the questions start coming my way.
From the president's house. I'm no president.
The debt question, we are going to spend roughly 500 billion. Now, our debt as of today, the one I'm aware of is debt stock is around 12 trillion. 500 billion will be less than 5%. It's 4 point something of the debt. But the benefit that I am looking at in terms of, say, the longevity of that railway, both transit business and our trade with Uganda, far outweigh the 500 billion, one. And two, if you compare it maybe with the the overall GDP. I mean, it's 2% of GDP. Our GDP grows at 5% per annum, which means in terms of value add, we will cover that value in less than a year. So the debt question that we have all of a sudden become very aware of as regards the construction of the railway is null and void. Because really, in terms of is it significant to the overall debt stock? It's less than 5%. And so no, that is not the question. The real question is on governance.
Well, I am livid because, and I get very distraught when we start talking about figures. Figures that I know would be impactful nationally to the extent that we can spur this economy very fast to our ideals. $500 million is enough money to build the Nairobi-Mombasa Expressway, 6-lane. It was 3.6 billion USD, right? But we want to put that in an SGR, which is highly inflated. Now, you say we spent a trillion plus for the existing SGR. In my opinion, we got a low-grade quality trains. I mean, we've gone to other places and you see how speed trains ought to, to function and how they operate. Now, here we pay premium price for low quality products and standard. The 1 trillion was supposed to give us an SGR to Uganda and the Nairobi Expressway, plus or minus a bit of that. And you can imagine how that would have spurred our economy. I agree on the necessity issue because connectivity is key. There is a new phenomenon, the new Silk Road by China. They want people to move and goods to move because that is the way to go. Now, here we are. We are being treated to the theatrics of the launch of the SGR and other projects. But my question goes to, is the bidding process competitive enough? Do we benchmark? As you say, they are like the standard operating procedures where these are the acceptable rates if you want to do an SGR, if you want to do an expressway, if you want to expand an airport. These are the market rates you are to go for. Are we treated to, I don't know if you're privy to this, but are we treated to offers and competitive offers where we as a country can say, we can go with, why not go to Germany instead of China? Why not go to Hungary instead of Poland? Are we treated with such, or is the choice made because, as you know, the kickbacks and the corruption, we know that is in existence.
Yes.
So, but how is that process managed from an economic point of view? Are we compliant in terms of bidding?
Well, I really would not answer for the government.
Right. Kevin might, but
like really.
You need to get the transport CS here,
yes,
and ask him some of those questions. I'll be listening. But let me comment on the opportunity cost of the SGR vis-a-vis the alternative projects that you're saying in terms of the 6-lane road from Mombasa to Nairobi. Come on, Bwana. Pia wewe kuwa serious. Like, we do not have a functional railway between us and Uganda. We are losing the regional diplomatic influence to Tanzania. And waiting any longer means that there is a lot that we might stand to lose. The reason Kenya Airways is boss in the region is simply because they started early in terms of winning the logistics battle. If we wait until Tanzania has solidified their position as regards the logistics battle with the region, we'll lose the battle. Now, do we redo a road which is already existed? It has its problems. I saw the other day Salama is over flooding. Or do we then say, no, let's prioritize this SGR and at least ensure that our economic well-being is reassured? Then now, after we've done that, the money we get, we can now concede the 6 lanes from Mombasa to Nairobi. But beyond that also, there is the possibility of a PPP. It's easy to get a PPP on an express lane from Mombasa to Nairobi. It's not easy to get a PPP on an SGR between Naivasha and Busia.
Is it the issue of return on investment?
Yes.
Okay.
You see, with government, you're looking at the bigger picture,
Right.
the macroeconomic considerations. With the private sector, you don't care about the macros. That's not your money.
Yeah.
You only care about, okay, is there a really return investment on this thing within the time that I want to get my money out? And that is a conversation easier to have between Mombasa and Nairobi. It's a very difficult conversation to have between where is this place? Naivasha and Busia.
And with the return on investment, as Kevin comes in, where do we stand with our current SGR in terms of evaluation?
Oh, that one.
Yes.
But let's have this happier conversation. Like the weather is very nice today. Because it has not really broken even so far.
Yeah.
The bulk of the bulk of what was supposed to pay it. I mean, in terms of transport, the bigger business is cargo. And even when they forced guys to use the SGR by the take or pay order, it still wasn't breaking even. So Sembuse now, when now you have your liberty to use the truck or use the railway. So no, it's a difficult conversation to have. And that is especially the case because of the inflation of construction
Of the
costs.
costing.
Okay.
And I'm wondering, because you raised very fundamental issues on necessity, governance, and debt. And on governance issues, because one thing that continues to baffle us, and that is probably easier to juxtapose with debt, is this wastage,
Right.
the lack of accountability. And if you were to push it further and ask government to break down, what is this 500 billion for? Like, is it part of what compensation will be given to people? What is the track of the railway, etc.? But those are concerns that I'm sure, as time goes by, will be dealt with. I'm quite concerned about lessons learned on accountability. Is there anything that we have learned, both as a government and also as a people, particularly on holding government accountable? I remember even when SGR was happening, former President Uhuru Kenyatta told us. Document, in fact, he was referring to, some reporters on a live interview, and it was like, amuku wapea zile makaratasi? Access to information. How much information do citizens have around these mega programs, particularly if you were to bring in issues like NIF, the NIF, the National Infrastructure Fund,
Right.
concerns around the place of parliament, the control of budget, the Auditor General? Where are we not hitting the mark, Ramogi?
That's a good question. Of course, the first conversation is transparency and access to information. The contract between Kenya and China around the SGR has not really been opened to date. A friend, Khalef Khalifa of Muhuri, went to court, I remember, in conjunction with TISA, and just requested, on the basis of Access to Information Act, for that contract. I am not sure if that the judge ruled in their favor and said that contract should be made public. I'm not sure it has come public, because I had seen several letters being exchanged for that document to come public. It has not come public. And so that I don't think government has taken it to heart that we have a new constitution that demands that when the public asks for information, it needs to be accessed. We are still operating under the Official Secret Act, as was before the new constitution. So a secret is a secret, and you die with it. We do not... I'm not sure if there is a law, and maybe one day you guys can ask some of these lawyers that come to your show, that squarely puts the responsibility of accountability on someone. I know the the principal secretary is the accounting officer in a ministry, but I'm still waiting to hear that a principal secretary has been, for example, arrested and incarcerated because he failed to provide information, or there was wastage in his government, in his department. We've not seen that level of accountability on an office bearer.
Yeah, we got close in NYS too, I think.
But
the cases are still ongoing rather. So we are still.
Because if I know that this is squarely my responsibility, and you see, the problem of government is a huge juggernaut. So you're not sure whether it's Kenya Railways who should take responsibility or this guy or this guy.
Yeah.
If I know that this is squarely my responsibility and not the political responsibility of everybody else, then there's a level of responsibility that I hold on it, and that limits the amount of wastage.
So here we are looking at a situation whereby you're talking about the government's first priority or job is to secure across board, and one of those is the economy. And this is obvious. I mean, it's a no-brainer to anybody who's listening to understand that, okay, with something like this, you can actually make, significant steps towards growing an economy with something like transport system in the railway, whereby you can move things from one place to another, by your own admission. However, is it counterproductive where you're using money that you don't have, number one, to do the thing? Because this 500 billion shillings is not sitting in a bank. It's not sitting somewhere in an account. It's going to be borrowed if it has not already been.
Right.
Is it counterproductive to use money that essentially is not going to make a return on investment for something that you're not even sure is going to work? And this is not speculation. You've talked about the fact that we had a railway that cost 1 trillion shilling and we've not made ROI yet. Kenya has not made ROI on a 1 trillion shilling investment. How many years ago now?
Is it 9?
9 years now, almost 10 years?
Right.
That hasn't happened yet. But then it's almost like pie in the sky theory, where you imagine there's something great up there somewhere, but you can't land this thing just yet. Are the wrong decisions being made? Because that's the direction that we have to go into. It may be good, but is it right? Those are two totally different things. Is it good? It could be good, but is it right? From an economic perspective, let's use that as a caveat.
Okay.
From an economic perspective,
No, you've challenged me, and I like that, because on one hand, yes, I believe that the SGR completing to Malaba will be productive and will give us ROI. In fact, I am sure that if then we connected it to Malaba or into Uganda, the transporters that are shy of clearing their cargo in Nairobi or in Naivasha ICD and have rather opted to take a truck from Mombasa to Kampala or Mombasa to DRC would be more comfortable then just putting their cargo on the SGR and picking it at the border. It helps because that means you don't have to get licensing for your trucks moving from Uganda into Kenya. You just need to ensure that you clear your goods in Kampala. And so that means that with the new project completed, we should see more traffic on the SGR. We should see it then start to make real money as opposed to where it is today. It is also evident that this is not wishful thinking because we have a significant trade happening with Uganda. We have trade happening with DRC. We have trade happening with Rwanda. And if you combine all that, then you're looking at a place where, a comfortable place where you can say, we'll get there. In 2 years' time, I mean, just that trade should be able to take care of the cost of the SGR.
So the demand,
allow me.
Please.
But then again, you've also raised the question of ROI and learning from history. And My concern, however, is that that question is targeted at, is it right for us to have the SGR? And that is that's the conversation that I was trying to discourage the country from.
Okay. Why?
The conversation I would want the country to have is it right for us to entertain misgovernance or to entertain inflated projects in the country? So that then we move the conversation from necessity, because then it's a convoluted conversation that has no end. And we move the conversation to the whole question of governance as regards infrastructure, as regards our projects as a country. Because that is the real question. If we get our infrastructure projects done at the right rate, then we would not struggle with heavy debt. Mm-hmm. We would not struggle with the ROI. Mm-hmm. You understand? It makes sense. You borrow for it, you do it, in a few years' time, you're good to go. That is the conversation we need to have, as opposed to, is it necessary? Well, it is necessary.
Legally speaking, if we are unsatisfied or dissatisfied as Kenyans with the costing of a project such as this one, SGR, and many others, what would be our legal channels? You know, how do we go about? Because it's a value for money. That is one. Whether it is PPP, whether it is a debt, it is our money.
Absolutely.
What would be our sources of seeking refuge or remedial measures that we can apply? Because this is not the first time we're having such a project. We've had this before. Kevin says very openly that the documents were not publicized, much as they're supposed to be public documents, you know. We don't have a proper audit of the project. So what positions can we assume in trying to make sure that we get the good project, as Ndu says, but in the right manner? Yeah.
Well, you know, you've started that conversation with legal, and legal recourse. And legal recourse requires evidence. Evidence is now what he was discussing and I was discussing, that it's very difficult to hold the government accountable when you do not have documents. And that is what the drafters of the Constitution anticipated and said, no, we want access to information. And so the Access to Information Act was devised. So that then, with that information, you ask yourself, okay, is there value for money as regards this project? Or there is no value for money? And if there is no value for money, then you have the opportunity to pursue legal recourse. Or to accept where it is and pursue advocacy, or just have a discussion with government. I think I'm getting frustrated, if I can be honest.
Join the club. Join the club.
Especially with the legal recourses that you've had.
Yeah.
Because you'd probably go to court, the court will hear you out, and then it might even rule in your favor. And then there's the whole question of implementation of court orders. And so is the solution really legal or is it political? Because for as long as you've given someone political power and they feel that they are above the law, so that even when the court order comes, they choose which ones to implement and which ones not to execute, you are in trouble. You are helpless. And so then the real question would be more political than legal.
Well, we hope that we can have now a both balance of the political and the legal. The other aspect is now the civil, the people, the populace.
Yes.
Because we are happy when we see a project being launched. It could be a pier somewhere in the lake region. It could be the SGR. It could be anything. And we are happy because these are amenities we feel like we deserve.
Yeah.
And people are happy to say, oh, the president came and he has given us goodies. We are happy.
Right.
Whether you support or not, that's another story. But do we as a people really understand that this is our money that is being spent? and that it should not depend on the whim of the president visiting or not visiting a region, being welcomed by Kevin or not, to have the projects that are meant to spur development in your area. I think the concern is that, are we learning, are we waking up as a people now, generally speaking, to understand that the economy is our business? The money being spent on any project by our number one employee, the president, is our money.
Right.
That we should get commensurate value, either now or progressively. And the value does not have to be purely economical, because even it's when connectivity breeds more values in different forms and manners. But are people waking up to the reality that this is our money? Even when it is borrowed, a debt is taxed in advance because we shall repay. Do you feel people are waking up to that reality?
I think that conversation has been around. I won't use the phrase waking up.
Right.
I think we are living up to it. It's a conversation we've had severally, and one of the successes of the 2022 elections was that the conversation moved from merely a political or the democratic conversations into an economic conversation, because the country realized the political class define your economic well-being or otherwise. With the president going Western, his rallying call, Western, if I can just call it the whole West Kenya, his rallying call is inclusivity. That there have been parts of the country left behind that needs to come into the economic ecosystem of the country as well. And to do this, you need to invest in significant, outstanding infrastructure projects in the region, to the region, and around the region. That is welcome. That's good. However, of course, as I mentioned, for me, the real conversation is around these projects. Let's have proper governance so that there is no wastage.
So, if you allow me, how therefore should communities around the crossing stations prepare? We are talking about, and even the counties, Narok, Mulot, Bomet, Sotik, all the way to Sondu and Ahero. How should those communities prepare as the construction is going on and even after?
One of the things I loved about the SGR, there are many things I didn't like. I didn't like the coaches. Oh my God, they were so uncomfortable. What was those guys thinking?
Ramogi, you should be in business. First class.
No. Even the first class ones, they were squeezed. I mean, you pay more for comfort. You're there, you're squeezed. What was this guys thinking about us, giving us such coaches? I hear they have been redesigned. But I loved the fact that they really prioritized safety. The SGR, in terms of passenger movement, they really worked on safety, both as you come in and even the safety of the communities where the SGR passed. Like the thing was literally fenced. So even in some of the game reserves, you have comfort that at least we are not finishing our animal population by traveling comfortably. So for me, I think that is still a key part to look at. We also need to hamasisha is the word in my mind. Awareness about to the communities that look, don't sell your land to middlemen like Joe, who might come to you and all of a sudden be interested in your land because they have found wind, they've caught wind that the SGR is coming to pass through your land. And so they want to buy your land and sell to the government and get the millions themselves.
But then, Ramogi, how stringent is that process of compensation of land around these mega projects?
It's very effective. Of course, around the Mombasa-Nairobi phase, there were some complaints with the people saying that they never received that compensation. So it's one of the things, and that's why I'm saying hamasisha, that you need to inform the people that be aware that the SGR is passing through this place, and don't allow outsiders to come and buy your land so that they can now sell to the government, and then you are there wondering, why are we not getting compensation? It's because some connected guys somewhere identified the design early and bought the land or got titles for your land on which you are, and then now sold to the government. And so those disputes were very common on this first phase, and I hope they will not be as common in that phase of construction.
So one would imagine that if in order for this to happen, there needed to be, well, it's not an imagination, it's almost a demand constitutionally, that there must then be prudent leadership, and that you shouldn't want to cut away. Our previous speaker talked about the fact, previous conversation, he said that corruption plus housing is corruption. Corruption plus inflated budgets is corruption. Corruption plus SHA that's not working, is corruption. Corruption with an SGR that should have gone to Malaba that didn't, and now is wanting to go to Kisumu for half the price that it didn't go to Malaba with, is still corruption.
Right.
So prudent leadership would demand that not a shilling is unanswered for, and that what you said was going to happen is going to happen, because we've already established this is a good thing. It is an economically progressive nation when you have the movers of these elements which you know are necessary towards that economic output. Where does leadership play in all of this? It's not just Ramogi over here or Joe over here, but that it's got to be circular. Where does it play in all this to ensure that the things that you're hoping and say, hey, Bana, we should have been able to do this?
Right.
Where does that play?
Vision casting, implementation versus execution, and finally accountability. In terms of vision casting, I think the president has outdone himself. The good lad can dream. And he's never shy to communicate to you his dreams. There are some will come to pass, others will not come to pass.
Others will sink.
But he's still, he'll still boldly come to you with a different dream. Now we are dreaming about Singapore. And so in terms of vision, I think the question that Kevin has asked me is relevant to every leader in every cadre in this country. How can we leverage on this project for our people? How can we leverage on this vision, the grander, the bigger vision? You can also cast a smaller vision for your region. Because you see, SGR reaching Kisumu, for example, means then that goods can move to Mombasa in 6 hours. Goods can move to Nairobi faster. The corruption that happens on the roads with policemen stopping you at every stop when you're trying to bring your goods to Nairobi could be a thing of the past. So then, if you appreciate that opportunity, you start casting a vision. Can we invest in agriculture? Can we produce ABCD for which we have competitive advantage in this area? And I think that's something that governors in that stretch of the SGR Phase 2C and D should consider and think about keenly. But and there is and I know it sounds obvious, but some people in some of our places there is opportunities happening, but there is no leadership that would tell people, look, this thing is here. We can actually take advantage of it and do ABCD. EABL reopened in Kisumu. We've not seen a lot of planting of sorghum happening in Kisumu. The other day I was being told that they buy a lot of their sorghum from the region and not locally. There is a rice company in Siaya around my area.
Siriwa.
Yes, and we've not seen a lot of leadership pushing people towards investment, towards taking advantage of that. And so you'd think that this is very easy, ABCD, but it's not. Leaders needs to cast the vision and share that vision and tell the people, look, this thing is here. You can take advantage of it and move upwards in terms of your economic well-being. And finally, accountability. And when it is done, after you have executed, after you have done it, you need to come back to the people and say, this is what we set out to do. This was the cost, and this is what we've achieved. And that accountability, starting from the ground all the way up, will help us become a better country. I have not seen that. People just come and launch, and after they have launched, they come and open. And, when they open, now you start asking the accountability questions in terms of costs, in terms of ROI.
Yeah.
And people look at you like you are disturbing the peace. So,
project.
that accountability is necessary.
Well, I think every coin must count. Basically, that's what we are saying. It is good. Is it right?
Right.
What we have done, what are our lessons that we are picking? SGR phase 1. When you talk of now the connectivity, how do we web it to the county, like the industrial parks? This would have been a very better way of sparring all those counties where we are cutting across.
Right.
And, the one county, one product theory would have come into play, whereby now movement of goods and humans become very, fluid.
Yeah.
So I just hope that, I don't know the legal recourse that we have. I would want to see how that conversation goes, because it is in our right as a people, as Kenyans, to understand exactly what we're doing in our money.
Right.
But even as we welcome it, it's important for you to come and educate people on how these economics ought to work. Do we benchmark on the best practice? Are we getting the SGR, the version of, no pun intended, the Nokia 3310, when we should be getting a Samsung, S26 to date? Because when I go to other countries, really, I've not used such a train in a long time. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Right.
Indeed.
So,
Well, thank you very much, Odhiambo Ramogi, giving us insights into this. I think the thing we're going to go is that we sing our woulda, coulda, shouldas, and that perhaps we shouldn't be in a situation where we're doing that, but then giving us insights into the reasons why that's happening and the hope that we will not make those mistakes again.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the insight this morning. Thank you for joining us this hour. Let's see what happens.
Always an honor, and thank you for having me.
Good morning. 9 a.m.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.